Hi, I'm Georgie.
And I'm Vegetarian.
Welcome to our podcast, Diversity and Inclusion, Satisfying the Tick Box.
This is a special moment for us. We are starting season 2 and episode 1. We've got a special guest, guests, let me rephrase that. And today we're going to be covering D&I from a different lens. But before I start, I'm going to take it back and talk to you about my graduation day in 2020. You might be thinking, why? There's a reason. There was a man on stage who was receiving an honorary degree that day, and he said
Hi, I'm
something about
Georgie.
mentorship and always having a mentor. That man is no other than Jim Fairbairn. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Jim has helped me quite a lot in terms of my career transition, coming from the police to IT. And welcome, Jim. Welcome, Lisa. We've got guests today. We're going to be covering D&I from a very different perspective, like I mentioned. So, if you can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm the group brand manager at Megger. I've been with Megger for about 7 years, always in the marketing department. I have a background in marketing and yeah, really pleased to be here today to talk about D&I with you guys.
Hi everyone, Jim Fairbairn. I'm the CEO here at Megger. Been with the company 5.5 years now. A chartered engineer that's kind of moved up into general management. So glad that you could make it down to see us.
Thank you. Well, welcome to you both. So before we start, I think I'm gonna start by the quote that you said, Jim, when I was graduating and you were getting an honorary degree that day. So I'm just gonna refer back to my notes because this quote, I think everyone should listen to it, and it resonated with me on the day, and I'm gonna tell you why in a moment. So the quote was, "Find a mentor and find a new one when you outgrow them. Study the attributes and approach of the best people in your chosen career path. Find out what excellence looks like and copy it. Anything is possible. The world is a small place." I'm going to pause it. That was a powerful
That's
quote.
powerful. Yeah.
Extremely powerful, don't you think?
Yeah.
And I was there in the room, and like I said, I was going through this career transition. I was thinking, wow, who is this guy? I want to reach out because you're talking about finding a mentor. Jim, what is mentorship and why is it so important to you?
I mean, it's a good question. I do remember that day because it was about a month before lockdown, I think. And I had to make that speech in front of about 1,800 people. It was the biggest audience that I had actually spoken to, and I really, kind of enjoyed it. If I if I really think back, to my career, I have been influenced hugely by mentors, and it all makes sense. I actually left school at 16. Uh, I did an apprenticeship. Part of that, I actually went to college, and within my apprenticeship, the engineering manager was a real kind of father figure mentor to me. And to cut a very long story short, the college actually wrote to my company, said, "Look, this guy's got something, and send him to university." I hadn't really thought about that, and the fact. So they wrote to my mentor. My mentor came to me and said, "Look, I want to send you to university." I didn't even know if I could do it. I wasn't confident enough. University. I came from a working class background. We had really nothing. My dad worked in the coal mines and stuff, and just having that belief in me to go and do this. So anyway, I went to university, graduated, and I went back and worked for the same company for a few years, and then I decided to travel the world, just to learn about cultures and stuff, which was again really changed my mind. It changed my life, because it changed a lot my mindset, believing that, people are different, and, embracing people and cultures is actually the way forward. And I came back to Glasgow and I had to find a job. I'd been away for 9 months. And so anyway, I found a job again with this, serious entrepreneur in Glasgow who became really one of my mentors also. And for some reason, people really liked and felt, they wanted, to help give me ladders, to help in my personal life and in my career. And like analysing that, I'd say maybe 15 years ago, I absolutely decided that I wanted to become a coach, and a mentor to young people. So when you reached out and said, "Look, I'd love to come and see you, get some advice," I mean, there was only going to be one answer.
Thank you for sharing that, Jim. And you've achieved so much, let's put it out there. And that moment, like you said, did change me in terms of my mentality and what I needed to do in terms of that career path. So thank you for sharing that. But I'm going to take it back one step. What you got given a honorary degree from City University of London. What were the contributions? What are your contributions leading up to getting that award?
Yeah, I mean, that was the end of, a 10-year period actually working with them in terms of, innovation, helping them kind of commercialize, some engineering work actually they had been doing. So really doing it for no gain, other than, to help the university. I also did some lecturing and some mentorship as well. And actually the university, decide you can't influence that. The university decided that they wanted, to recognise that. So I was obviously very, very grateful.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through your mentorship journey, have you had one bit of feedback that's been really, that's really stuck with you?
Yeah, I think the big bit of feedback is that if you want to do something or achieve something in life, then you have to become something different. So it's almost like, I remember reading in a book once, if you want to attract something to you, okay, then you have to become attractive, and that's kind of means that if you want to get on in your career, okay, you have to become, so you have to generate value, and your skills and capabilities, okay, need to be more than what you're currently doing, and therefore you'll attract the next level of career. I do remember VJ and I talking when you came down to see us, that I suddenly realised I wanted to set a goal of actually earning my age. At that point, I was maybe 30 or something, right? After I'd come back, from a round the world trip, and I think I became the technical director, and so I wasn't earning my age. So then I thought about, well, what do I need to do, to earn my age? I need to be different. I need to upgrade my skills. I need to do this. And so I did that. And when I achieved it, I set the next goal of, I want to earn double my age. And if you think that's a massive gap, well, it gets your creativity going. It gets the ideas just around how can I become something different, and attract the right opportunity, people, places, and opportunities. And then it went to 3 times and 4, and all that's kind of one of my core strategies. You really have to become someone different.
Yeah, I think it kind of gives a different perspective on work as well, because you're kind of thinking, how can I make myself the best person to mentor someone else? And I just had another question around, if there's someone out there that wants to kind of get into mentoring, what advice would you give them to kind of get started in that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I quickly realised, that I, I didn't, I wasn't going to be shy about it, and you weren't shy, when you asked me, and people are going to say yes. If someone says no, the next person will say yes, because we're all inherently built, I think, to help people on their career and their personal journeys. I remember a mentor telling me that typically a person at any one moment is going through 3 or 4 key journeys in their life. They're probably going through, a development journey, a career journey, a relationship journey, and maybe some other journey, maybe another couple of journeys. I think as a leader, what I've actually learned is that, yeah, like if you can influence one of their journeys, and sometimes I do that without even people knowing about it, which I think is even more powerful. As a leader, I can, as the CEO, I can actually do that. and you move them on, and actually they get the realization that they can coach and mentor people. And really that's part of the culture that we want to build within Megger, is to really develop, kind of uprate people, their capability, drive up the standards, because it includes all the diversity stuff we're doing, because that really fires up your innovation and your competitiveness, by doing that. So it's a winning formula.
I was going to ask, so in terms of a mentee-mentor relationship, what makes a good mentee-mentor relationship? What do you expect from a mentee or a mentor, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, kind of 10 years ago, I did my coaching and mentoring qualifications, after being influenced so much by by various coaches and mentoring and mentors through my career. I mean the difference between coaching and mentoring is actually very. Coaching's like you hold up a mirror. Mentoring is all about giving advice, and kind of helping people through their, I'd say, the technical side of what they're doing, but also how they build relationships, uh, how they think about people, how they think about broader stuff around leadership and influence. So I think uh, uh, an experienced mentor has all that knowledge and experience and kind of war stories. And I think a mentee has got the opportunity. There's so much people with world and life and business and personal experience, typically older, that you can ask questions about. Tell me about this, open questions. So if I was actually starting again, I would keep going down the mentor route, and just kind of look to become something different every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think this is a good kind of time to move into your sponsorship program. And Lisa, I'll come over to you to talk a bit about this. I know recently you climbed Kilimanjaro. Was that part of the sponsorship program, or can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Jim introduced what we call the High Potential Leadership Program within Megger. So it was kind of quite a small cohort, like 8 of us selected to be put on this, I think it was an 18-month program, and we were doing topics like sort of more operational things. So we learned about operations, HR, finance within the business, but then all these other like softer skills that come with leadership. So we did some mindfulness. We worked with a psychologist. We did like storytelling. I was also given the opportunity to do my coaching qualification as well. So yeah, it was fantastic because I'm sort of a painfully shy introvert, never saw myself as being a leader. And through that program, I was like, maybe I can be a leader. And not just that I can, but exposing me to learning what a leader is and deciding what kind of leader I want to be. So that was great. And then as part of the program, the cohort were also offered the opportunity to climb Kilimanjaro. Jim wanted to get a team from Megger together. So there was 3 of us in total, me and one other person from that cohort. And it was the hardest but best experience of my life. Like, it was literally like life-changing. For me, it was probably me and Ian, who was the other sort of cohort member that came. Our journey was probably a little bit more difficult than it should have been because we had issues with our flights. So basically we just had to abandon our luggage in Amsterdam and just go without it. So we climbed the mountain by stealing and borrowing kit from other people. So Jim like scrambled the team together, and they sort of pulled together clothes for us and food. And then on the way to the mountain, we went in and we hired like the down jackets and sleeping bags and stuff. So it was like, I think, yeah, it took almost 3 or 4 days to get there. So we were like stressed, dehydrated, tired when we arrived. So we were kind of like not set up as well as we would like to, but still managed to make it to the top. So yeah, it was just life-changing. And I think the things that I took away from it was like not just my own resilience. I knew that's what I was going to get out of it. It was going to see how deep my reserves were. But like the other lessons I took from it was that you can't achieve things on your own. Like if you have certain goals, there's no shame in asking for help. If I hadn't have asked for help on that trip, I would not have made the summit. Like, for example, like every morning I'm like, Jim, can I borrow your sun cream?
Factor 50 because the
Yeah,
sun's strong
yeah,
there,
yeah. And I like, obviously, if you have to wear sunscreen because you will burn immediately. So, and I hate asking for help. It was like every morning, like, can we borrow it? But if I hadn't have done that, I would have got burnt and had to go back down the mountain. So it's even, and that's just like one example. Like the whole team, they, you know, we didn't know some of these people we're on this trip with. But they were right there, like, look, we're not going up this mountain without you. Just get here. We'll get kit together for you. You can't do it on your own sometimes. And it's having that humility to actually accept the help that that is being offered to you. And yeah, not expecting to do it on your own. And the other thing is that sometimes success doesn't look like what you think it will look like. So I still hit that summit, but it wasn't the journey I thought it was going to be. So yeah, it was just incredible.
Yeah, I guess it's adapting, isn't it? And adding that kind of stressful layer probably made you feel so more amazing about it that you managed to do it. And I think when you're in that situation where you're forced to ask for help, it makes you realise maybe I can just ask for help in my daily life. Like I don't have to be kind of shy and do it all myself, you know? Jim, how was it for you? How did you find it?
Yeah, it was amazing. I always wanted to go to Everest base camp on the north side, which is the Tibet side, because that's where all the history is. And someone actually said to me, well, you'll go to Everest base camp and you'll look up at Everest and you're not going to climb it because it's too big, right? But you'll regret it because you're not at the summit. And Kilimanjaro came into the discussion, and it sounded like a good idea. The challenge, with Kilimanjaro is you're operating at high altitude and you don't actually know how you're going to react. You think so you can be super fit, still get impacted, by the lack of oxygen. At summit it's at kind of less than 50% what it is at sea level. So going there, doing all the training, but in a sense of adventure and stuff, but not things that are actually out of your control, which I'm not really used to. So I think, accepting that you control some things and, you've got an outcome, but you can control, what you're going to control, I think was something that I took out of it. But so the other thing, I said to Lisa and Ian, I was obviously in communication with Lisa when, so they arrived, so they missed the plane I was on, right? So that was a bit of a nightmare. Okay, they didn't have any bags. I said, look, just get yourself out here, okay? We'll fix it. And, credit to them. So they landed early on the Monday morning, an overnight flight, okay? Monday afternoon, we're all on the mountain. I mean, unbelievable. We managed to get kit, between us all, and we hired stuff. And so they made it to the top. And for all of us, we all had moments of doubt, because it was, see, by the end of the week, you're exhausted, you're not really kind of eating right, sleeping right. And some at night, it's a 12-hour trek, through the night. And it's on the steepest, part of the mountain, absolutely free, probably minus, 15. I mean, you're tired, you're dehydrated, you're having to push, through. And so we all did it. We all, agreed, okay, we're getting a Megger summit picture. And it kept us all going. And I'm not going to lie, when I reached the summit, yeah, I was in tears. I was in tears. There was an emotional kind of release from that. It was just, it was a goal, and mentally it was just actually so hard. But what I've also come to realize is that, see, when you push yourself, it's, getting to the top of Kilimanjaro was what I'd call a pinnacle moment for me, right? It was a goal that I really, really was, invested in all the training. But it also has, ripples, because life's actually never the same again. It's almost like, you know, the perimeter of your thinking or your mindset's actually changed. Now that doesn't have to be climbing Kilimanjaro. It could be about, you know, reaching out, you know, to a mentor. So you know, hopefully, I think this is the case. You know, your kind of perimeter of your career was actually stretched because you and I had that discussion, right? And you know, doing that, you know, to other people, but subsequently, you know, to Kilimanjaro, um, I I kind of made up my mind, kind of once a year, I was actually going to do something big. And only 2 weeks ago, I did an ultra marathon. Now, if you had asked me last year, could you do an ultra marathon? Okay, the answer would be no. But I found a mentor. I found a world class ultra marathon coach. Him and his wife coached me, okay, for 7 or 8 months, and we got through it, and it was amazing. It was the most amazing thing, just to be with them, you know, the whole weekend and all the training up to that. And again, it's actually stretched, you know, the perimeter of you know, my mindset and actually approach, and also probably, you know, determination, you know, to help other people kind of even more, because I've had that experience.
I think it sounds like Kilimanjaro was an enlightening experience for both of you. But the thing that you mentioned just now, Jim, about mindset, it's always a mindset thing. Changing that mindset, you can do whatever you want, and you kind of instill that in me. But what I was going to ask you then, from all that Kilimanjaro experience and your ultra marathon, how does that translate in terms of business or personal in your lives? How do you apply what you've learned into business and in your personal lives?
Well, for me, I just like I think you're the same. Like we came off the mountain feel like we could literally achieve anything. Um, you know, there was so many struggles along the way, and there was moments where I almost turned back, but then I didn't. Um, so I came off the mountain like I don't think I've ever felt so proud of myself, and I was like, you can do anything. Like what do you want to do? And one thing I'd always thought about doing, but I think through sort of a bit of a feeling like I wasn't capable, was doing an MBA. And I think we were actually at the airport on the way home, and I asked Jim because I knew he had an MBA, so I was asking Jim about what's the value in it? What are your thoughts on it? And that really sort of snowballed to me actually saying, right, I want to do this. And Jim and Megger have just been so supportive, like they're supporting me through that. And so now I'm on an MBA program. I've just started a couple of months ago. Um,
And
and
where'd you
I'm
do
just
that, if you don't mind me asking?
sorry, what?
Where'd you do
At
that?
Bayes Business School.
Bayes Business
Yeah,
School.
as part
Shout
of
out to City, isn't
and
it?
that's
Shout out to City.
Shout out, literally perfect time to shout out to City University of London and Bayes Business School.
yeah,
You've
that's the
got three people.
coincidence, right? The coincidence of like I
There's no
looked up,
coincidences, really, is there?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'd looked it up and found right, this is the one I want to go for, and then was like, okay, this is in connection with City, so I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, it was a real like sign that this is the one I should go for. So and I'm absolutely loving it. I can already see like I'm just learning these new skills, and it's just like opening my mind to things that I didn't think I could do before. And I think it translates into that workplace where you learn to problem solve. Like I didn't have any kit on the mountain. Okay, fine. Like where can I get kit from? Like what does this mean? And Ian and I were at the airport, and we're constantly, as we're getting all these issues coming up with our flights and everything, we're constantly like, right, what's the situation? What resources do we have? What are the options? And that's what you can do in the workplace. Like, what are your options? What do you go for? Taking risks, and as I've said, like accepting help, bringing in a team of people together. Like, there's just so many things you can translate from that experience into like everyday life, working life, like the bigger career, anything.
Being agile is
Yeah,
probably, and
absolutely.
being agile even through COVID, because we met just before COVID, isn't it? So that would have changed your outlook or how you run the business as well.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was an interesting time for Megger, all companies, because lockdown was the end of March, and April, our orders dropped for that month about 40%. Now that doesn't make a business sustainable if it kept to that. Now it actually bounced back actually very quickly, and for the whole of the year we hardly saw it was just below flat, so it wasn't a big issue. But during kind of April. We're privately owned, and so I'm talking to our parent shareholder and saying, look, my way of I want to get through this is to do two things, do the best for the company and also for the people. And I think that having that, attitude and mindset about, so we'll get through this, and actually we'll come out it stronger. And interestingly, since I joined 5 years ago, we've actually done an engagement survey every year, and it's gone up every year, which is interesting because we've gone through COVID, but we tried to do the right thing for the company and also for the people. So we accepted for a year, lower profitability, and we kept all our investment. So the year after we took share, and last year was a record year, and so far this year we're even. Our run rate is like 15% up on last year, and it was a record year last year. So we're in a good spot. But I think it's only because you're deliberately focusing in on the people, the culture. We're a world leader in what we do. That. So you need that. But if you don't, engage, kind of drive, your culture and development within a company, you'll soon turn people off, and actually you won't keep the momentum going, for sure.
Yeah.
So one other thing, Georgie, it kind of ran through my mind. The journey's actually never over either. It's like leadership is a summitless mountain. Someone told me once, right? But it's the same, with DEI, EDI, how you develop yourself, what's happening, all the journey potential. So you have in life, it kind of never ends. If you stop, investing in that, you'll go backwards. It's just the way it is, So I think being on the mountain, you're generally unplugged for 7 days, emails, social media, texts, and all that stuff, and it allows you to think. And I've actually joined, in the last 6 or 7 months, a kind of leadership, mastermind program. Again, taking some of the, so there's 10 of us, that really contribute, to this kind of group and share ideas. And, I'm going to take myself again to the next, level of leadership, doing more, teaching and training within the company, and, again, trying to drive, standards up and capability, within people and leadership. And that's going to be the way that I'm going to do it.
Jim, what you just said there was quite powerful, because leaders are at the top and they can influence a lot of people as well. And coming back to the point you made about journeys, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a one-off destination. It is a journey as well. So that's one thing that every leader, every organization needs to bear in mind.
100%. I think on that note, Lisa, I'm going to come to you and just, what kind of EDI programs or employee resource groups have you got going on at Megger?
EDI has always been something I've been really passionate about. I've done a lot of reading on it, and working in Megger, I feel like it's really given a platform to actually start exploring some of these things that we can do. And so we got a working group together for EDI, and we kind of talked about what is it that we need to do. None of us had really experienced in this before, so it was really kind of just a group of people that are really passionate about it. So it's maybe not really structured in terms of, I think you referred to it as employee resource groups. It's maybe not as structured as that, but we have this EDI working group, and I'd done a lot of reading into the work Sheryl Sandberg had done, so the CEO of Facebook. She's written a book called Lean In, which is very focused on women in the workplace. But I wanted to kind of take that concept and make it more about EDI in general. So we coined them our EDI circles, and they're basically smaller groups where we invite anyone in the organisation to join, and they're really about reviewing. We'll take sort of a particular topic. So we've done gender. We've recently done one for LGBTQ. Recognizing that it's Pride. So taking a topic like that and just getting a group of people together that want to talk about it and say, what is it that we're doing? What's the situation? And what can we do to make it more inclusive? Because, you know, workplaces are very transient. It's like we've said, like, it's a never ending journey. We're never going to be perfect, but what can we do to make people feel as, you know, as though they belong? They're not just trying to fit in, they're trying to belong in the organization. It doesn't move as quickly as I would like it to, but it is having an impact.
Yeah, so you mentioned about Pride Month. I think it's in this month every year. I think companies always just put the pride flag on their logos, but they don't do kind of any groundwork behind it. I think it's really important to show what you've also been doing with initiatives and things like that. Have you got any kind of things to add to that? Or
Yeah, it's real. As a brand manager, I'm really sort of aware of it's. I think it's a term referred to as pride washing, where
yeah,
I can't remember the first organization to do it, but they take their logo and they put like the rainbow colors on, and then it's kind of snowballed. And I've even had people within Megger come to me and say, we should do this. We should like put the Megger logo in pride colors. And I was like, as soon as you do that, you're jumping on a bandwagon. You're just, you need to stand up to the scrutiny if you're going to do something like that. And actually, I think it's not so much about what you say and like the espoused kind of ways of doing things. It's really about what you're doing internally. And so, no, you know, we've had conversations like, you know, we've tried to put in some more unisex toilets, for example, to make like the trans community feel much more like comfortable. We've talked about our parental leave policies and things, and are they really inclusive and really sort of helping different types of family units, not just your traditional, and also, you know, always sort of giving women all the maternity, but men don't get that same, like, you know. So we're having all these conversations, and as I say, we're a big company, it's slow moving, it's hard to please everybody because sometimes you can do something for one group that is then to the detriment of another. So it's just a very difficult thing. But I think what's great about Megger is we actually have this platform, and every time we do an EDI circle, the comment that always comes out is like, at least we're talking about it. Like, we're so happy that we get the chance to get in a room and like actually just have these conversations and just share our experiences. So yeah, it's something I'm always gonna have to fight for. It's hard work, but it's totally worth it.
But I think it's from what you said, it's a step in the right direction. Even though it might take time, you're taking that positive step and you're honest about where you are as well. So that's, I think, a lot of companies don't realize where they are in that journey. You're honest about your position and you're working towards a better future for everyone. That's
Yeah,
nice to hear.
yeah, one thing that I want to say, Lisa and I totally, you know, agree with this. I see so many companies like an International Women's Day. You know, the CEO puts out a statement how, you know, important it is. So we invest in women. We don't do that. Okay, we try to do things, you know, behind the scenes, so that we're constantly moving forward. You know, an example is see when we recognise, you know, people. So we always, you know, strive, you know, for gender equality. And the high potential group, you know, we do the same. We've just actually recently increased the size of our, you know, leadership group. So within the company, the people that kind of meet every quarter, really that run the company, and you know, the gender balance is actually better. It's not as good as what it needs to be, but kind of making these, you know, steps quarter by quarter, kind of year by year, really puts, you know, the momentum. We're on a journey, just as we kind of talked about earlier. Our industry is actually very much, you know, white, kind of male based, you know, so we have got long-term, you know, gender targets and other targets as well that we work to, but I still think rather than try and do something, you know, that dies, you know, we try and do a lot, you know, behind the scenes. One of our values, and actually we're looking at our values at the moment, trying to, should we rephrase them, because they're all single words. One of them is actually caring, but I don't think you get I don't think the word necessarily conveys the fact that the core kind of strength of us in Megger is that we are a global, multicultural family. That is the essence of our success, and actually people play, for the jersey, and we're doing lots, behind the scenes through trying to develop the culture, trying to recognize people, trying to move, people on in their capability and skill sets, so that people believe that there's a better tomorrow than there is today. And that's really trying to do it from a leadership.
And you mentioned family, Jim, and that's quite a big word, because
Yeah.
people like colleagues, employees need to find their belonging in an organization to feel part of the family and also contribute to the success of the family. And obviously, I noticed, Lisa, you've got tattoos. I'm a tattoo enthusiast as well. So I've had like in the past where you have to cover it up due to work. What are your thoughts of in terms of your tattoos, and in the workplace? That's like, it's your identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
have you encountered anything where it
I
hasn't worked?
have at previous companies I worked for, and I had less tattoos then, and I had comments of you need to be covering those up, like comments about what I'm wearing just as a woman, even not to do with tattoos, but like you should be wearing this. I came to Megger and no one cares. Like I feel like I can sit in the boardroom with my arms out showing my tattoos and I don't get any judgment for it. And so I feel like I can be my authentic self. And I think when you can be your authentic self, you then actually perform much better. So, it's to business's own interests to accept like people for who they are, because then they will do their very best. And, having tattoos on my arms doesn't change my brain. Like it's not, I'm not less capable of performing my job just because I've chosen to express myself in a certain way. And it's not just tattoos, it's maybe just like the way you dress or how you choose to wear your hair or things like that. Diversity is so much more than your race, your gender. It's about accepting people for who they are. And another thing that I want to throw in as well is like the neurodiversity, I think, and that I'm not just sort of referring to maybe like the more obvious things, but things like dyslexia. So if you have someone who's dyslexic, are you providing them with the tools they need to perform the best? They shouldn't be like penalized for just their brain working in a different way. So we should say, okay, do you need a different kind of phone? Do you need tools to help you in what you need to do? And also in terms of neurodiversity, so I am a governor for an organisation it's a college that works with 19 to 25-year-olds who have special education needs. So I think the majority of their learners are autistic, but they have sort of other things as well. But it's what they do is they try to prepare these young people for employability. So they also do like their maths and English, but they'll teach them, how do workplaces expect you to behave. So you can't just take a day off because you don't feel like coming into work. You need to follow a process and respect timekeeping and all of these things. And what we've done is actually we've organised for one of the learners to have work experience at Megger, because manufacturing is actually a very good place for people with autism because they work very well within parameters. So if you need a logical process that needs to be followed to a very specific set of rules, they thrive. And so we have someone in our factory now that's doing that, and I think it's trying to get the message out to other organizations that they're not going to be a knowledge worker, but there are places for them in the organization as long as you have the right support structures for them. So when we had them come in, we had the school come in and like do a review first, and we really worked with them to make sure that everything was in place so that they would feel supported in that workplace. And I think it's going really well for them. So
yeah, that's great what you're doing. And I think going back to the point around supporting people, because I'm dyslexic and I could talk about it till the cows go home, But if I'm not getting that support in my day to day, what I need, so like for example with emails, if someone's written a massive thing of text, that's just gonna really cause me stress because it's hard to pick out the key points. So I think it is just talking about kind of what you can do to support your neurodiverse colleagues is so important.
Yep. And I was going to ask onto that point of the tattoos. Jim, have you got any tattoos?
No, I don't. I'm obviously too square for that, but growing up, I guess my claim to fame is I've got some great friends, and so the town that I grew up with, okay, but we're all banned from every pub. So there you go. So that I don't know if that's better than having tattoos, but anyway.
Well, let me clarify. Actually, you've got something that none of us in this room have. You've got an OBE. So we're gonna come back and talk about this. You got an OBE. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that was for?
Yeah, so the backstory to that is, and I told you about when I travelled the world for 9 months, and I was in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Hawaii, the US. I worked, I picked, fruit, worked in a bar. I was kind of the highest qualified barman in Auckland at one point, So, but anyway, they. It was all absolutely fantastic. But I came home and I wanted a job, and I ended up working, for this company. I was there for 12 years, and so the chairman of the organisation was a real mentor to me. And the penny dropped about mentoring at that point, and it changed my thinking around. Look, I need to mentor people. I want to mentor people. I want to see people develop. We develop people. I think is a really good kind of tagline in Megger. And so someone was actually retiring from a voluntary organisation in Glasgow, and it was actually John Cooney. And so the chairman of the company that I worked for said, so he knew all the people involved, and so he said to me, Jim, do you want to become the chairman of a voluntary organisation in Glasgow, where the UK government gives you seed money just to try out programs in employability and stuff. So you think about it, a design engineer that moved into general management, working with the DWP, kind of skills, development, all the local government, the national government, Marks and Spencer, all these people that need kind of entry level, people. So I said yes, and so we got $1 million to $2 million every year, piloted employability program. You're trying to get people off generations of worklessness into permanent work. And we did about 20 different programs over the 7 or 8 years that I was a chairman, and some of them were groundbreaking, and some of them were actually rolled out across the whole of the UK. So we really got a tight, team. We innovated. I was a design engineer, so I knew creativity and stuff, and we really kind of re-engineered the whole thing. And I retired after 7 or 8 years, and the DWP, or Department of Work and Pensions, put me forward, and I got an OBE for services, to disadvantaged people in Glasgow. So that is a true story. But there's a few things. So my mentor recommended I do that because he saw the development path I'd actually get for that. Now, I was the youngest. Typically, always happens to me. I always go in where I'm the youngest. Not now, but it was back then. And totally out my comfort zone. Totally out my comfort zone. I mean, I had the managing director in Marks and Spencer's, Scotland, the chairman of Glasgow Airport, the national government people, director generals, and all this stuff. And I was the chair. Thinking back, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. But actually, I made myself do it, and it's almost like it was a vertical, development curve, and I became somewhat different from that. Therefore, it helped me in my life. It helped me in my career, and it was absolutely fabulous. And I mean, we piloted lots of programs, and one of the programs we did, I think we took about 60 people, and I think we got about an 84% success rate, which was absolutely kind of unheard of. So I think over the period that I was chairman, we managed to get over 2,000 people out of generations of worklessness. Their family, like it was all worklessness, into full-time employment. So.
Jim, that is quite a huge achievement, and you've helped the people of Glasgow. So I'm going to tie it back into Megger. How do you look after people in Megger and their well-being?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. We run some local wellbeing programs, including mental health support. That's all kind of local. One of the initiatives that I'm very proud of is that I've been meditating now for 27 years. A friend of mine called Jack Black. In fact, so the story is, I went to see Jack Black. I was working in offshore kind of oil and gas design, and I went to see Jack Black on a Thursday, Friday, a 2-day course, and he fired me up so much. I resigned on the Monday, and I travelled the world for 9 months, which is kind of what I never. That was 28 years ago. So I've been meditating since then, and especially after COVID. There's a lot more, anxiety in the world, and just probably people worrying about, the future and all this stuff. So we've actually brought in a program of mindfulness. Jack's, led that within the company. Our goal is to get it to 500 people, kind of learning basically how to manage their stress, and how to do all that. We're probably just under 200 at the moment. We're filming a digital version so that we can roll it out, and it becomes a kind of permanent thing. And if I think back to all the benefits of meditation that I've had, on mindfulness, it's just around, you operate on a different plane. You're far more kind of leveled, so you don't really feel the highs or the lows. You're far more kind of leveled. You resonate, with people more. There's a certain kind of energy that you pick up, and coming back to Kilimanjaro, it's a volcano, and I mean, you really feel the energy. It's a very, very special case. And one of the observations that I had in Kilimanjaro is that a lot of, I make this assumption, but I'm probably not far wrong. A lot of mountaineers can be quite arrogant and quite, really selfish, but see the local guides in Tanzania. I mean, they were absolutely wonderful. I mean, we befriended them. They were our partners in getting us up in the mountain, right? And we've still got relationships, with them. And this year we're sending another 7 people. So I think that comes, from the fact that you're grounded, so you're leveled, if you like, in terms of mindset, and you're not allowing, stress, to go forward. We're also a big believer in kind of recognition. It doesn't have to be financial kind of recognition. So that's the well-being in the company is very important. That includes, the culture. So we set high standards, but also, we wouldn't accept certain types of behaviours. It's like zero tolerance, to certain things, and trying to, embrace that as a culture is actually very important for us.
Yeah, 100%. So have you had any feedback from employees doing this kind of meditation and wellbeing program? Have they found it useful as well? Because it sounds like you sing its praises of meditation
Yeah,
and
totally. I mean, so the emails and direct kind of Teams messages has just been, phenomenal. It's changed people's lives, their personal lives, I mean, their family lives, and just, being part of something, that wants to grow. So the whole kind of ethos here is that we work at getting better every day, every week, every quarter, and every year, in terms of all the main things within the company. For me, business, starts and ends, with people, and provided that you've got good, products, and I mean, we're the number one in a lot of the markets, that we serve. So therefore, if you engage, you motivate, you reward, you recognize, people, you give them tools so that they can grow. Growth is actually more than just, the top line of a company. It's growing the culture, growing all the people. It's kind of making them feel as though they belong to something that is actually going to be better tomorrow than it is today. And that's the whole mindset.
Yeah, I think this is a great kind of point to ask you both. We ask all our guests this question. What's your kind of key takeaway from this whole conversation we've had today? Lisa, I'll start with you.
I mean, I think for me, when it comes to EDI, I would just always say to people, just always continue to educate yourself. Like, it's, you learn stuff all the time. You think you're getting it right, and you're not. That for me, an example is the first time I heard the word or the phrase white feminism, and I was like, I exhibit these behaviors, so I thought I was doing it right, and I'm actually like not really thinking, from the wider perspective. So just always try and like learn, re-educate, and accept that journey will be very uncomfortable. You will see some of your behaviors mirrored back, and you just have to kind of lean into the discomfort of it and like know that. But when you feel uncomfortable, that's when you're growing, and that's kind of a message for everything. I think when it comes to like leadership and everything, like don't shy away from something just because it's uncomfortable.
Thank you. And Jim?
Super, Lisa. Yep. For me, it's leadership as a summitless mountain. DEI, it's getting it right as a summitless mountain. You never get there. And I think you've really got to continually, invest and feed into something, and always, have the goal that you want to be better, in the future. Setting that standard, across everything you do is actually very, very is that necessary, for progress.
Thank you, Lisa and Jim, for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Yeah, and thank you for reaching out, and you've enriched our lives, by coming here, and I'm really interested what both of you do in the future, because we'll be following you.
Oh, thank you, Jim. That's really nice. And one last comment from me is, Jim, you need to, if you're going to keep winning these awards and accolades, you need to leave some for people like me, Lisa, and Georgie. It's like just putting it out there. But thank you so much for being open with us and sharing, your experiences, your personal experiences, but also with what's happening at Megger. It's going to be quite impactful for the engineering community, but also manufacturing as well. So thank you.
Thank you to our audience for tuning in this week and listening to our first episode of season 2, and keep your eyes peeled for the next coming episodes in the next few months.
Adding on from that, this is our first YouTube video, so go out there, like, subscribe, share, and follow our channel. As Georgie mentioned, we've got a new episode coming in the next few months, so keep an eye out, but also, keep an eye out.